Good adventures, everybody. I'm Melissa Bonzek, and welcome to episode 140 of Books Cubed, the show where I chat with authors you should be reading. And as always, I'm always excited when I talk to authors, but especially this week because the Olympics, 2026 Winter Olympics, are happening right now. And I spoke with Joe Battaglia, who was a reporter for NBC. They were Emmy winning. From 2008 to 2012, no, excuse me, 2014, sorry. And he covered sports. He covered the track and field and then alpine skiing. And he has written a book called Beneath the Rings, which takes place in the 2040 Olympics. Athletes are kidnapped, and a reporter has to figure out what's going on, and there's a ticking clock. Let's get right to the interview, and I will see you after. I want to welcome Joe Battaglia today. I am so excited to be chatting with him during the Olympics because he started out as a part of an Emmy winning coverage team for the NBC Olympics from 2008 to 2014. And now he has written a novel that takes place in the 2040 Olympics. It's very exciting. It's called Beneath the Rings. Welcome, Joe.
Hi, welcome. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it, Melissa.
Oh, I am, like I said before I started recording, I am so excited to be talking to you during the Olympics. And I see that you covered track and field to start and then switched to alpine skiing. And this week are the alpine skiing events as we record this.
Yep.
So actually, when this goes live, which will be next week, this will go live on the 19th. I think they end on the 18th.
Right. It'll all be over.
It'll all be over.
17 days had come to a close.
Yeah, it'll be really sad. Yeah. But let's talk about how you got started. Were you an athlete yourself?
I was a very mediocre athlete. I was not the athlete in my family. My sister was the athlete in the family. She was the one that, in high school was on state championship volleyball, basketball, and softball teams. So that was not me. But I always had a passion for sports and a passion for writing, and I was fortunate enough to win some writing scholarships coming out of high school that got me an introduction to the group that did the high school and college sports for the Newark Star Ledger in New Jersey, which was the largest paper in New Jersey, and I got an invite to come and check out their offices, and they offered me a part-time job as a
Wow.
stringer. And from there, started working full-time when I was 19, covering sports, and I did that for 13 years. So it was, a dream as a young kid to like be able to, put those two passions together and start building a career.
Yeah. And then, what, 2008? You were part of the team. You guys won an Emmy, right?
Yep. So
Oh,
in 2007, I decided to leave the newspaper. I was seeing that they were struggling to figure out how to monetize digital, and things were not really going that great. And I was fortunate that my father knew somebody on the business dev side of at NBC that got me an interview, and they hired me as a desk editor for Olympics. I was not on the Olympics coverage team when I was hired. And the day of the Olympic trials men's marathon in New York City, I was the lone guy working the desk, and an athlete named Ryan Shea had a cardiac incident in the middle of the race and died. And so, as you can imagine, from a news standpoint, all hell breaks loose. And, I was the one that was, kind of handling that, all day long, getting, lots of information from our team on the ground in New York. I was in our office in Stamford, Connecticut. And that night, Dave Gobble, the coordinating producer of NBCOlympics.com, called me into his office and said, "Hey, we don't have a track and field producer yet for Beijing. Do you want that role?" And I said, absolutely, like without like thinking twice about it.
yeah.
It was like I knew that was my ticket to Beijing, and so yeah, that's how I got on the coverage team.
Nifty. And track and field at first.
Yeah, track and field for the Summer Olympics, and then was my primary, and then I also did softball for Beijing, and uh, I did alpine for the Winter Olympics in Vancouver, starting in Vancouver, and then also in Sochi in 2014.
What year was it where they dropped women's softball from the Olympics?
It was after '08.
Yeah, because I lived in Arizona at the time, so all the women on the team came from
Half of
local
them were
colleges.
from Arizona. Yeah,
Yeah.
Jenny Finch and company. Yes.
Yeah, Jenny Finch and everybody. Yeah, I mean, we knew we didn't know them personally, but we knew of because they were local. So they really spent a lot of time covering it. And we normally for the Summer Olympics, I only watch two events: women's soccer and the steeplechase. And that summer, that summer, I think the Summer Olympics before then or after then, we were just watching the women's softball because it was pretty much the same team, wasn't it, for the two times?
Yeah, the '04 team and the '08 team were pretty much the same. A lot of the same characters, and they were characters. I got to know some of them. They were really neat personalities. Besides, Jenny Finch was, obviously a star on that team, but Jessica Mendoza, Kat Osterman, Crystal Bustos, a lot of great, all-time great softball players. I mean, it was.
Excuse me.
I mean, pretty much everybody on that team is like Hall of Fame type athlete. I mean, they were all amazing
Oh, yeah, just amazing. And I remember there were baseball players that tried to hit against Jenny Finch.
and like had no luck. Yeah, it's a bit different. When you move that circle in closer to home plate and try to make contact with the ball coming at you 70 miles an hour. Yeah, not happening.
Yeah, yeah. We just laughed before that started going, that is just no way. No
Yeah,
way at all. And a lot of the guys were good sports about it.
of course. Yeah, yeah, and that's neat crossover. When those type of things happen culturally.
Beijing, amazing opening ceremonies.
The best. It set the bar high for all following opening ceremonies.
And now I did like France's opening ceremonies. I thought those were pretty amazing.
I still don't put them on a Beijing level. I don't think anything that's come after Beijing has been to Beijing's level.
It's going to be really hard because it was immense. There was just so many people involved with that. And the stadium was huge. And I just, like you said, I can't imagine anybody coming up with anything that's going to top that ever.
Yeah, no, no. I mean, it was it was a cultural spectacle. It was a storytelling spectacle. It was art and music and dance and I mean everything. It encapsulated the history of the country and in such a way that like I mean you were glued to it. Like I mean you not taking your eyes off of anything. Yeah, it's the standard bearer. I have it on DVD. I will never not watch it.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. And I was thinking of that in the opening of your book. The book opens with them at the opening ceremonies for the 2040 Olympics. And I was actually thinking of Beijing going, God, Beijing was just such a good.
Well, that was, I mean, that was my inspiration. I wanted to, in writing Beneath the Rings, I wanted to like bring some Olympic realism into the novel without bogging it down with like Olympic minutia. And to me, like one of the best ways to set the stage was, for what was the first Olympics in the Middle East. It was telling that story through the opening ceremony and trying to come up with something, on par with the storytelling that happened in Beijing. And so like that was super important to me. And that's why, I brought that element in like right from the get-go.
Yeah, now give everybody just a rundown of what Beneath the Rings is about.
So Beneath the Rings is a high stakes thriller. Again, it's set in the fictional 2040 Doha Olympics, which is the first ever in the Middle East. There's a veteran journalist named Nova Mendelsohn, who's this sharp, no nonsense, Olympic insider that stumbles into a nightmare when 12 athletes, six from Lebanon, six from Israel, are kidnapped in a brazen midnight raid. A ransom demand soars to $500 billion. And ancient vendettas explode. And here Nova is kind of racing through like all the Olympic venues, but also, the shadowy back alleys of Doha and, trying to unravel this conspiracy before the world's eyes. And uh, it was my, kind of ode to the games, spending almost 20 years like in that, Olympic sports realm, seeing the magic and the cracks, I was able to explore that in Beneath the Rings, and bring in elements like Munich, with the kidnapping
Wow.
and um, yeah, it was uh, definitely where I wanted, my first novel to go.
And now this is a really big story. It's over 500 pages, so there's a lot packed in there. When did you first start having an inkling that you may want to turn some of these experiences that you'd had at the Olympics into some kind of a novel?
My parents have begged me my entire life to write to write a novel, and it was like, yeah, yeah, mom and dad, like, when am I going to do this? When I'm like chasing athletes around the world? Like, no, like, there's no time for it. And in 2024, I was laid off from my job, and so now I had
Time.
the time on my hands,
Yep.
right? I wrote a children's alphabet book that I self-published, and it was track and field themed. It's called the ABCs of Track and Field, and just putting that out into the ether like gave me the confidence to then go and sit down and start writing Beneath the Rings. And I knew like right away, when I was doing, running this idea through my mind that like setting it in the Olympics was where I wanted to go. Like, I mean, that's been such a big part of my professional life that, a big part of my life period that, it made the most sense to, to go there.
Yeah, and you're going to have behind the scenes knowledge that me or someone else who's going to sit down to write about the Olympics isn't going to have.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think if you're going to write a fictional novel and set it in the Olympics, like it helps to have lived, through a few Olympics and, been there in person and see how things go, so that you can, bring some of those elements in, like, and do it, in a organic, intimate fashion. And again, know like, where to draw the lines, right? And, how much of it to bring in and how much, kind of doesn't need to be in there.
Yeah. Now, how long did it take you to put the book together?
About a year.
It's not bad. It's not bad.
Yeah, no, it was it came together fairly well. I took it chapter by chapter and didn't do an outline. I just kind of wanted to see like, what's flowing out of my brain today, right? And kind of write it from that standpoint. And yeah, it came together in about a year.
Did you have any athletes or anybody else who were familiar with the games do a read before you published or
I was very fortunate. I had my first draft of my manuscript done, and I had a friend, Sarah Crouch, who's a best-selling novelist. Her first, well, she's written 8 books, but like her breakthrough was a book called Middle Tide, which was a USA Today bestseller, and
nice.
she's out this year with her second book called The Briars, which is also blowing up. I knew Sarah when she was a long distance runner and covered her, on the marathon scene. And I knew she had written Middle Tide. And I shot her an email one day and just said, hey, Sarah, I'm writing this book. I just wanted to pick your brain about the industry, the process, like, all of these things. And we jumped on the phone and had a great conversation. And she just said, like, hey, like, send me your manuscript. Like, I didn't ask her to read it. offered to read it, and I sent it to her, and she gave me some amazing critique. Like basically, my first chapter sucked. It was way too long. I was bogging, trying to get too much in, like right at the beginning, and later on in the book, I was probably too visceral in the details of like what the bad guys were doing to the athletes. And
Yeah.
she's like, hey, like you need to decide here where you want this to go. Like, do you want it to be a thriller or do you want it to be a gore? Like
Yeah.
there's audiences for both, right? Like
There are. Yeah.
you need to decide. And, ultimately I did not set out to write a gore novel. Like that was not where I wanted to go. And so I was able to like take her advice and go back and rewrite the first half of the book, and streamline, the the early chapters, and get the flow better, and kind of cut back on the gore, and allude to some of the things that happen, without going into every bloody detail. And I honestly don't think I've got a published Beneath the Rings if it weren't for Sarah.
Oh,
I mean, without that insight, like you know, it wouldn't have come together.
that is really nice that she had the time and was able to do that. And I agree with her. When the athletes were, and I don't want to give any spoilers away, I was worried about what was going to be happening with them, and I was really pleased that it was left to my imagination.
Yeah,
And I moved along and didn't really want to think about it. Um, anyway, so yeah, but it moves fast. It's very exciting. Um, are you going to do a sequel to this book? The same kind of.
potentially. I mean, you've read the book, so you know it's open to
I'm not
it.
all the way done, so don't tell me any
Okay,
spoilers.
okay. Without giving spoilers, I subtly left it in a way that I could write a sequel to it. I don't know if that's where I want to go, just yet. I really want to explore the avenues of potential adaptation for screenplay. So I'm kind of looking to go down that road right now. But that's not to say that, a sequel to Beneath the Rings isn't in the future.
Yeah, definitely get started also on that second book. I was a literary agent for 5 years, and that the number one thing that made me nuts was I'd have clients who would say, here's my screenplay, and I'm not writing anything more until you sell that one. I'd be like, dude, no, it's not going to happen, probably, because,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, I'm taking it one step at a time. I've got ideas for what a Beneath the Ring sequel could look like. I've
Mhm.
already scribbled notes down. For that, and which characters can come back, and so forth and so on. But I have not actually started writing chapter one of a sequel.
Yeah, I mean, because you could take anything from the international stage um, and put together a thriller, definitely.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said, I've got ideas of where it could go, but we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, as a writer, it's always, I'm not sure what I'm going to do next for a lot of people. And it takes a little time to fall into that next book. But let's get back to alpine skiing. I
Yeah.
absolutely hate the snow, but I love the Winter Olympics.
Yeah.
They are my favorite. I grew up in the snow, and so
Okay.
I got over it a long time ago. And I used to ski, but snowboarding, half pipe, um, the giant slalom, anything, pretty much anything on skis. I'm gonna watch the skating. Some I love curling. We used to live near Canada, so I had a lot of Canadian friends, and curling is awesome. But what of all the winter sports, not just alpine skiing, but what events and what would be your favorites?
I love watching curling too. I mean, I've got to admit, like it's fun. As someone that grew up in a pretty traditional Italian uh, family and played some bocce. It's kind of like bocce on ice. So
Yes.
I kind of gravitate to it. But yeah, I mean, Alpine, what came up for me is it was just one of the four major events, and we had our figure skating, our gymnastics producer for summer was our figure skating for winter, and our we had our hockey, we had uh, I mean all our other producers for the other sports. So Alpine was what fell to me. I knew absolutely nothing about alpine skiing when I started, but I knew a little bit about track and field, but didn't know a ton about international track and field until I started. And just like I approached that, I threw myself into alpine and learning the athletes and learning the events and the storylines and started putting it together. But I like alpine because it's um, you got to be the same way you got to be, a bit daring to do the pole vault in track and field. You got to be a bit daring to like get on skis,
Yeah.
at those speeds and with turns and jumps and I mean the amount of I mean you look at the physics of it and the amount of pressure that you have to, be able to put on your skis at those angles at that speed, requires unbelievable strength and agility.
Oh,
And then I mean then you throw the slalom gates in and like you're weaving in and out of those like I mean Michaela Schifrin is a god. I mean for to be able to win at the rate that she wins and slalom and really has only had one major injury in her career is pretty amazing. I mean she's not Lindsey Vonn that like has absolutely abused her body
oh,
you know
yeah. And then
uh,
she broke her leg in
I
that
mean,
what,
and
13 seconds in?
13 seconds in, like 5 inches too narrow, clips a gate,
Yeah.
and breaks her leg. And if you look at similar, I mean, they haven't shown her X-ray, but I have seen on social media X-rays of a similar injury to like what her fracture is. I mean, her leg is broken in like six different places. I mean, it's no joke. I
Yes, my
mean,
husband
so
sent me a picture and it showed a metal brace all over the entire leg
yeah,
with and she was smiling from bed.
yeah.
But still it's oh my word. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I mean the whole world, everybody was disappointed, including her, because it was
Yeah,
her
I mean, and the
comeback.
unfortunate thing was that like until that last World Cup race, she had been on the podium in 5 out of 6 speed races. She won a bunch of downhills. Like she was skiing like really, really well in the World Cup. And so like her medal chances coming into these Olympics were looking pretty good. And to then tear her ACL in that last
Yeah.
World Cup is like, ugh.
Yeah.
Uh, and then, um, as strong as she is, like, I mean, the chances for, the margins are slim in the downhill, and, um, it was 5 inches. I mean, it was literally like 5 inches the other way. Like, who knows? Maybe she's a medalist.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's crazy.
Because I
Just
mean, her training runs were fine. She had the third fastest training run and then the second fastest training run. So like, the ACL did not seem to be a problem, right?
yeah.
It was just one of those margin things that
Yeah.
are so tight.
Yeah, and it just so many things can go wrong. You go back to years ago, Jill Kilmont. Do I have that right? Yeah, who was paralyzed.
Hmm.
Susie Chapman. I remember Susie Chapman was the same in the same group of skiers because she for years she did the or for months or whatever was the choose I'm Susie Chapstick
Yeah,
commercials
I mean,
after the Olympics.
the thing that's unfortunate for Lindsay is like there as iconic as like the shot of her reaction to winning the gold medal in Vancouver in 2010 is there are like probably 5 times as many like videos and scenes of her being airlifted off a mountain.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
true.
for crazy crashes. I mean, like,
Yeah.
but I mean, nobody has pushed the boundaries of speed racing the way she has. I mean, she's paid the price for it.
She has, and she's got a long recovery. And I wonder for some of these athletes who spend their entire lives training for those Olympic moments, when the Olympics are done and their careers are done and they have to move on, just how difficult is that to do something different, to change what you've always been training for. Your whole life was for that podium, and then all of a sudden it's gone. And I just wonder what the next chapter will be in her life.
I mean, she's made for television.
Oh
Like,
God, she is. She is
I
truly,
mean,
yeah.
like, I mean, honestly, if she did not like mount this comeback at age 41, like, there's no doubt NBC would have hired her, paid her like an exorbitant amount of money to be, their skiing analyst. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, that's what they do. So yeah, I think she's got a future in television if she wants it. I mean, she's got the looks to like continue like, being an Under
Yeah.
Armour spokesperson and model and
Yeah.
like if that's what she wants to do, but she does not need to get on skis
No, she
again
doesn't.
competitively.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. 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 I mean, we were concerned when we heard that she was coming back because, yeah, she's 41. It's like, and that's kind of pushing it. And, she had that horrible break. So, yeah, that was really tough. That was tough. So looking back over the four different Olympics that you covered, are there any athletes or stories that really stand out for you
from the Olympics,
from Olympics that you covered? Yeah.
I mean, I've seen all of Usain Bolt's world records in person. Like, from hit the first one that he ran at the New York Grand Prix on Memorial Day before the Olympics. It was a rainy Saturday, and he shot out against Tyson Gay and like broke the world record. And then, obviously what he did in Beijing. And then I was at the World Championships in 2009 in Berlin when he broke those records again. So I've seen them all in person. And I mean, doesn't get much better than that, as a track and field fan.
Oh, yeah.
But I've been fortunate to see a ton of great performances. I mean, the men's 800 in London was probably, one of the greatest Olympic races of all time. Like every runner in the race either set a national record or a personal record,
Yes.
being pulled along by David Rudisha from Kenya. I've seen Meb Keflezighi win the Boston Marathon and the New York City Marathon. I saw Shalane Flanagan win the New York City Marathon. All great, amazing distance running moments. I've seen the pole vault world record. I've seen the hammer throw world record. I mean, like, I've seen so many different things in person. Like, it's been blessed, like that I got that opportunity at, in a golden age really for, track and field and, lined up perfectly with, a once in a lifetime athlete like Usain Bolt.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been pretty amazing.
Yeah. I love that picture of him where he kind of turns and he's smiling at the camera
Yeah.
and everything is kind of blurred.
Everybody's
Like
kind of
he's
blurred and
not.
everybody else is behind him. Yeah.
Yeah, that was amazing. And I think he'd said that it wasn't planned or anything. He just happened to look that way. But
Yep.
it made for an amazing, whoever the photographer was, it made for an amazing photograph.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the most iconic ones.
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, the Olympics. It's I don't know, there's something I just love the Winter Olympics. I wish I could get into the Summer Olympics more, but like I said, it's just women's soccer and steeplechase and my husband and I used to run marathons slowly. And so steeplechase just really spoke to us. It's just and when I was looking up steeplechase, the history of steeplechase, I was really shocked that the men's started in 1900, but the women's didn't start till 2008.
Yep.
And that is just crazy.
Well, that's how it's been for a lot of women's distance races. It was like slow adaptation, starting back, in more ancient times where they thought that like women's bodies would just absolutely combust if they ran farther than 400 meters, right? Like
Yeah.
yeah, and slowly but surely, like it's taken women to break those barriers down, right? Catherine Switzer and athletes like that to just sort of defy the expectations that and the roadblocks that people put up for female athletes. And
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's get back to your book real quick,
sure,
since we're starting to run out of time here. So this is an exciting story, and it covers, and there's a clicking talk. I can't even talk. There's a ticking clock that this reporter only has so long to solve this mystery of why these athletes were nabbed.
72 hours.
72 hours. And I mean, I love books that have a ticking clock in them because then the story really seems to race. Now, you said when you wrote it, you kind of did it as you were going chapter by chapter. Now, did you have to did you get to a certain point where you're like, I really need to sit down and figure out, and this isn't coming together, or were you able to just keep rolling?
Nope, I had that moment when I got to the point where I wanted to introduce the Obsidian Hand, and I wanted them to be rooted in some real Middle Eastern conflict, but I know nothing about Middle Eastern conflict, so I literally had to stop writing
Yeah.
and start researching. I got to that point, and I was like, oh, like who are these guys, right? Like why are they disenfranchised? Why are these bad guys? Yeah, I actually stopped writing and started researching for a while and, trying to come up with, plausible backstory for, how like this group came together. So like that was a stopping point for sure. And, once I was able to like get a good grasp of where I wanted to go with that, then I was able to like pick up the writing again and start going.
And I think that when you add real world elements, because I remember when the athletes are kidnapped in the very beginning, my first thought was 72.
Yep.
And then it was mentioned in the book, and I thought I really liked that because then it made it feel like what I was reading was real. It really pulled me more into the
Yeah,
story.
when I was thinking about like what I wanted to have go down at these Doha Olympics, I was like, there hasn't been an incident like Munich, since. Do I ever think there's going to be? No.
No, yeah.
I really do. I've said this a bunch in interviews. Like, you almost have to suspend some disbelief in reading this because, in reality, the security is so astronomically high. Like for somebody to pull off, something as brazen, as I write about in Beneath the Rings, not really that plausible. But um, that's where I wanted to go. But I did want to, kind of tie it back to Munich.
Yeah, and I think people they I mean when I was reading it I was thinking, that'd be really and kind of in the back of my head, well, that I don't think they'd be able to get in there, but in the book it happens, so it happens in real life, obviously. And it's the same thing. You read some things like in Andy Weir's The Martian, the dust storms are not on Mars like they like he wrote, and he's like, oh well, I gotta move the story forward, and people are just
Yeah,
gonna have to go, okay, I'll look past the fact that that's not really gonna happen, and I think readers are okay with that. You have a good
yeah.
story and exciting characters, and it's not going to pull you too much out of the story.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, I tried to make it seem as plausible as possible, I guess. And if you're gonna go there, you might as well like go all out and
Yeah.
without spoiling it, that's about as brazen as it possibly gets. And I was pleased with how it turned out.
Oh yeah, yeah, me too. Now, where can everybody find your book? Because I know they'll want to buy one.
Yeah, so the book is pretty much available online everywhere you purchase your books, Apple Books, Amazon, Barnes and Noble. You can go to my website, booksbybattaglia.com. There's links to purchase the book. There's also some bonus material on the website. I wrote a bunch of blog posts that kind of
Yes, the blog post.
delve
I saw those.
into the characters a little bit more. Again, like not wanting to bog the narrative down. If you want to get some backstory on some of the key protagonists, the bad guys, Nova Mendelsohn, who's the protagonist, some of those others, like you can go there and there's some cool stuff to read. But that's where you can find all that material.
Yeah, I like that. Now, for your next book, do that, and then has it have that be a freebie for people to join your mailing list, and people will grab that to get that backstory about those characters.
Yeah.
And do you have a mailing list?
I don't have a mailing list. That's the one thing I don't have is a mailing list. So I'll have to put one together.
Put one together, and then put some for your freebie to get them on the list. Give them something that's a behind the scenes or a side story of one of the characters or something that happens in the book, but we don't see it. But then you tell this is the behind the scenes when so and so went into this room. This is what happened,
Hmm.
and you can only find out when you join the mailing list.
Yeah.
And people always love that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Now, do you do in-person signings?
I haven't done an in-person signing yet. I'm working with I live in College Station, Texas. So I'm working with a local bookstore here.
Oh, good.
For this spring, they're going to do some things highlighting local authors. So I'm hoping to have an event coming up there. Um, Fingers crossed in April.
Oh, good. Well, send me the name of the bookstore, and we'll throw that down in the show links. Are your books available at that bookstore?
They will be. They're not currently. I haven't done any physical placement in bookstores. It's only been online sales.
Okay. Okay. Well, we'll throw that on too, because in the future, someone will read this and say, maybe if I call the shop, I can get an autographed copy.
There is one autographed copy that I know of that's out there. It's at Hyperbole Bookstore in College Station. So
Okay.
uh,
Everybody run down. You can get that
run to
copy.
Hyperbole and grab the one autographed copy that's sitting there.
It's a collector's item. There's only
It
one.
is.
Well, thank you so much for coming on today. And I
Yeah,
know
thank you
that
for
you will
having
want
me.
to go and watch all the replays, all the things happened like this morning. I was looking at the
You,
list of the events. I said I have to go watch them. I can't watch anything live.
I haven't watched the Super G yet, but I know I got the spoilers in my email this morning, so I know what happens, but I have to go back and watch it. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, me too. Me too. And I looked to see who won the medals. I'm like, oh, I gotta know. I gotta see now. And usually we don't get it. The only time I get up in the middle of the night is the World Cup for women, the FIFA World Cup for FIFA, is it? Whatever the ladies World Cup for soccer is
Mhm.
called. I can never. I know I'm a huge soccer fan. I have season tickets to the Orlando Pride here, but I can never remember what anything's called or who any of the players are named or any of that kind of thing. My brain is just too full for
It's
names
it's
and.
it's FIFA for all the World Cups.
Is Viva? Okay, great, great. My husband would be like, "You know this. Why did you know?" I don't know. I can't remember anything. I can't remember. I've got laundry. I've 3 days. It's been sitting there. I can't remember to fold the damn stuff. Anyway, though, so thank you so much for coming on today. And I'm really excited. Everybody needs to go out and grab a copy of the book, especially if you are an Olympic fan. It really is exciting. So thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for coming on today. I had a great time talking about the Olympics. I could talk about the Winter Olympics forever. I love the Winter Olympics, which is really weird because I hate snow with an absolute passion. If anybody knows me, they know that I hate the snow. But I love Winter Olympics. Absolutely love them. And it was just a joy to chat with him. And his book is really good. So go go take a peek at it. I think you can read like the first chapter on Amazon. Go check out the first chapter. I think you'll want to grab a copy. And that's it for this week. And I will see you next time. And until then, go read a good book. The Books Cube theme music was written by Laura Lynn Hardy. She performed the vibraphone. Billy Tyke Miller performed percussion, and it was recorded at Mills Kids Recording in Huntsville, Alabama.